What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. This is attempt number 4 to record this fucking intro.
4.
Hopefully this one sticks. That fucking Cox Communications can suck my fucking cocks when it comes to internet connection. I don't know. We can say that on the podcast. It's explicit. My wife just looked at me.
Penis, balls, cock, say all the things.
Just get it all out. Yeah. For some reason, Verizon in Las Vegas has sucked fucking dick, not just cocks and dick, when it has come to connections, and I keep getting put in SOS mode. Do you know what that is, Casino? Where it's literally like does nothing, and it doesn't even tell you.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that too. Yeah, for some reason, I love Verizon. I've had Verizon ever since I've had a phone for like 17 years or something like that. I've always loved Verizon. It's always been really good to me. But the last year and a half, there's been a big downgrade in connection here in Vegas. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the influx in the amount of people moving in from California or what, but it's rough. And then nationwide, Cox just fucking sucks cocks.
That's what you come to listen to this podcast for. Hot Cox talk. Hot Cox talk. But let's get off that hot Cox talk. say that 5 times fast. Let's get off that, Casino.
Hot. No, I'm good.
It's hard. Yeah. Like Cox. It is hard. But let's get off some hard cocks and talk about
some hard knocks.
Oh shit. If the Colts are on Hard Knocks this year, that would have been 10 out of 10. But I think they were last year. So we could have used that last year. But now let's talk about the hot Colts and not so hot today, Casino, because they could not trade Jonathan Taylor. And then remember when we had that discussion like 2 episodes ago where we were just like, you can't really not trade the player because then you get nothing for him, and then they're just wasting money and space on the bench. Well, turns out that's exactly what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor, because he's going to be sitting on the bench for minimum the first 4 weeks, and the Colts have to pay him $250,000 every week he does that. So, great job, Colts.
Yes. But I think when he's available to play, I think it's best for him to play. Reason I'm going to say that is, so yes, I know that he has to miss those first 4 games, so you're already starting in the hole there, but you obviously didn't get what you wanted. So if you just sit out and you don't play this season and, you boycott, you do whatever you're going to do, you're coming off of, you're coming off from not being 100%. And you need to now prove yourself, going into this year that, so say you take this year off as well, and then you go into, the next year hoping for a bigger deal, trying to get out. You're not going to get it because they don't know how you are coming back from your injury. So
yeah,
I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think it would be smart for him to, when he's eligible to play, just go out there. You're a professional athlete. Put your best foot forward. Get in there and play. It sucks that you didn't get the deal that you wanted, but let's just say worst case scenario, best case scenario for him, but also not so good. So say he comes in, he plays, and he has a really good season. And then next year, he doesn't get his payday that he's looking for, but if he has a really, really good season and he posts some really good numbers, that franchise tag is going to go up for him, and he's going to be making a really good deal, probably the upwards of $8 to $10 million on the franchise tag. So it would be in his best interest to not sit out and to actually play and be a professional. You're getting paid. You worked really hard to be in this league. Don't squander it. That's my opinion. You shouldn't squander the opportunity to play. Yes, you didn't get paid what you want to get paid, but now that's behind you. Now, if you want to get paid in the future, or at least have the opportunity, you have to come out and play, and you have to play well. Because if you come out and you have a bad, a bad rest of the season, then it's going to hurt you even more. But then that would justify all those teams that were like, we didn't want to pick you up because we weren't sure what you were going to do this year. So for a high price tag. So that's my take on him. What's your take on that whole situation?
Yeah, I agree with you. And apparently there were reports that came out that the 3 teams that were interested, there was 2 known teams, which were the Dolphins and the Eagles. Everybody knew the Dolphins were like the front runner. They were the most aggressive. They were offering the most. And then there was a third mystery team that just got revealed, which is interesting, but I don't think it's like changes anything really. Is the third team was the Packers, which was interesting because they have obviously Aaron Jones. But again, I do think that there should have, and we talked about this last time, there should have been much more interest in Jonathan Taylor based on age, and you're not going to get a running back of his caliber that can carry your team in the second round of the draft. Like, the chances of hitting on that are slim to none. So I don't know why people were like, a second round draft pick, like that's too much. We saw a quarterback we talked about last episode, Trey Lance, get like 3 first-round picks, 2 first-round picks. So yeah. So that is just one of those moves where I think it's going to haunt the Colts. It might haunt the Miami Dolphins if they start the season and they're again one of the worst rushing attacks in the league. But yeah, I don't know. I just think this is one of those situations where the Colts didn't get better. None of the teams vying for him got better. And then the only loser in this is really the Colts, because now they still have him on the roster. He knows they wanted to trade him and were trying to trade him and couldn't get what they wanted for him. So now he just sits on the bench. He takes a roster spot on the day where everybody was trying to cut their rosters down to the maximum amount of players you're allowed to have on it. So not only does he take up a roster spot, you get nothing for him. And then now you start the first 4 games of the season with a new head coach, with a rookie quarterback, and you don't have probably the best player maybe on your team on offense, who knows, on the field. So yeah, just a clusterfuck all the way around. But besides that, Casino, the other notable news from cut day was, of course, your New England Patriots, which is, they did, again, a move that makes everybody go, why would you do this? They cut every quarterback on their team. They then re-signed them both to the practice
than
squad.
Mac Jones.
Except Mac Jones. So Mac Jones is the only quarterback technically on the team right now. Thoughts on that, Casino?
Well, they did. The last reports that I saw is they did just put, let me pull it in. They did just sign both of the quarterbacks back to the practice squad. That just happened earlier this morning. So I don't know what they're doing. I mean, the Patriots have been notorious. I don't know exactly. Again, I've told you I don't get into the numbers like a lot of my friends do and other people. But the Patriots are notorious for cutting people and then re-signing them back on for different deals because they're just like restructuring stuff. So, yeah, I mean, because there's no really any other quarterbacks out there that I would want really on the team.
Yeah.
The only one that we were talking about that it was like a potential thing would be Will Greer playing from coming out of West Virginia. But yeah, it was very strange. I kind of shit the bed there for a second, just because, and also we're going right before that, the day before that, the Patriots got rid of Nick Folk for a 7th round draft pick. which is their kicker. They're going to go with their rookie kicker. So I was just like, okay, I know we're going to be bad this year because we got the hardest strength of schedule. We're in a really, really tough division, but we don't have to just be like, we're going to set up shop and just call it a year. At least try. So it just seemed like they were having a complete fire sale. And then I saw the quarterback thing and I just laughed and dropped my phone. So,
man, what a fall from grace for Bailey Zappi. I mean, this time last year, nobody knew who he was. Then this season happens, and there were chants in the stadium to have Zappi come in and replace Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And then this preseason, he's had a real rough preseason, and now he's basically been demoted from nobody to starter or to backup that fans are chanting for to quarterback competition, then release, now practice squad. That is a hell of a roller coaster for a guy, who at one point was quote unquote the savior of the New England Patriots. So thoughts on, are you all in Mac Jones, Casino? What going into this season, what's your confidence level in Mac Jones 1 to 100?
To do what? To just be better than he was last year? To make the playoffs? Give me a situation.
Okay, 1 to 100 confidence level that he's the starter day one next season.
The following season? Confidence
Yes.
level? 50-50 on that, probably.
Oh, okay. But you did say last episode that you think he will have a better season this season.
I do think he'll have a better season. With the new coordinator coming in, I really think that, you have to get better than what he was last year. If not, you don't have anybody. You have your practice squad, Zappi and Malik back on the roster. And, I just want to touch on that again. How crazy and how ballsy is that for Belichick to be like, we're going to put them on the waivers and just gamble that nobody else picks them up on the waivers. And they're like, oh yeah, now we're going to re-sign them back to the practice squad. Like, absolutely wild that he has the balls to do that, but it worked out. They're back on the practice squad, but just no fear in throwing your only two backup quarterbacks on the waiver wire. Just like, here you go. Just throw you out there. If you guys want them, grab them. But anyway, I do think that Mac Jones is going to have a better year. So, but you never know if they're going to draft a quarterback and then, they get beat out, or Belichick brings the quarterback in. Because there's been a lot in the last 2 years of a lot of players going back and forth, not giant deals either. So the rotation is all over the place with quarterbacks. So I would probably say for that question, about 50-50.
Now, the last notable news that I saw, because, obviously on cut days, it's a bunch of names of random people. Some you've heard of, some you haven't, but usually they do what the Patriots do, which is they get cut, brought back on the practice squad, or just picked up by another team. But there was no big names, quote unquote, that happened. But the news I did see is that Doug Peterson of the Jaguars had to cut his own son from the team, Casino. You are 2 weeks away from having a son. Would you cut your son from the Patriots if it guaranteed they would make the playoffs? That is the scenario I'm throwing at you. You have to cut your own son from the Patriots. You're the head coach, but you're guaranteed a playoff.
Let me throw you this scenario. Was there any talk? Did they have any chatter back and forth of like, hey, is it okay if I cut you? Or did they have any at-home meals to talk about this? Or are we just playing fun with the scenario that he had no idea?
He thought he was like, hey, son, come to the office so we can have lunch together. And then he walks in with his Lunchable. And then it's like, Here's and then his dad hands him a brown paper bag, and then he's like, I forgot to tell you, this lunch is gonna have to be to go. And then he's like, why, Dad? And then so that exact scenario is what has to happen. Little Casino Junior walks in with his Lunchable.
I would probably give him the paper bag and say, I'm going to go to the grocery store and grab you some milk because I forgot some. And then,
so you would cut yourself and then just make your son sit there fatherless.
So at that point, obviously, I know this is going to sound shitty. I would want my son to be with me. I think that would be awesome. I love that Belichick has his son coaching with him. I like those stories, but in the end, it is a business, and they're both professionals. Like, both professionals, they understand that these are corporations, they're businesses. You know, the players are assets to the corporation itself. So it would be a tough situation to have, tough talk to have. You probably get in trouble and sleep in the doghouse from the wife, but if it's to help out the team that you're working for, then yeah, I mean, it would be a tough one to do, but I don't know if I would be the one being able to have to say it. I'd be like, hey, can you go tell my kid? But I mean, in the end, like, it is a business. It would suck. I wouldn't want to do it. But if I knew my son was a professional and he understood how the business and the organization, you know, how NFL works, then yeah, then it would be whatever. Plus, you know, hey, go make the playoffs. Gives me something to do, you know, in the postseason, so I can go and, you know, watch you play and still be around football.
Yeah, I would have no hesitation. I'd be like, all right, see ya. We'll try again next year.
You already have no hesitation already with your kid. Like,
yeah, man. I love them, but again, I'm trying to win football games here, and if you can't help me win football games, I'll see you at home, son. We'll play Madden together. You can be my starting whatever.
We'll play Madden together until that you drop the first pass, and then you're cut from my team. And then you're playing on the other team, and I'm going to kick your ass.
And then, you know what? We can go outside and have a catch, but Daddy's trying to win some games here. That's what I'd say. But all right, Casino. On that note, let's move over to Daddy's Football Conference, a.k.a. the NFC East. This daddy. We talked about other daddy's conference last time. Now it is this daddy's, or not conference, but division. This daddy's division today.
At this point, you could say, yeah, outside of the Niners being not in this division, you can just say this conference because
that's true.
Yeah,
that is true. But before, let's save my team. We'll save yours, or we'll save it just like we saved yours. So let's start with, I think, maybe the most interesting team in this conference, which is the Washington Commanders. So obviously their offseason has been filled with hope, I want to say, because remember, first they got Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs. He shockingly left the Chiefs after nobody would hire him as a head coach. We talked about this move. We both think he did it just to prove he could do it without Andy Reid and Mahomes. And now he has a real tough task ahead of him because he's going to have to do it with Sam Howell at quarterback. But He is their new assistant head coach and new offensive coordinator. The Commanders last year finished 8-1, which was shocking to me. I do not remember them being a borderline playoff team. Like, that is fucking crazy.
Yeah. So this team, they have a good roster, and I want to believe in them, and I want to see that. I mean, they're not going to, the Cowboys are too good. The Eagles are too good. Washington at best is going to get third. Could they try to find a playoff spot in a weak NFC conference? Possibly. But this means that Rivera has to be right about Hal. Like, Sam Howell has to be the guy. And the sad thing is he's going to have to do this with probably one of, like, the worst, probably bottom five, I guess you call it, bottom five O-lines in the league. So I just don't know I just don't know how he's going to be able to get this done. Nothing against Hal. He could probably come out and be a really good player, but I'm sure he's going to get sacked a shit ton. Kind of like the whole not Sam Darnold. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Cincinnati quarterback, Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Yes.
The whole Joe Burrow thing where he might be a great quarterback, but he could very well easily get injured because the O-line's going to let him get sacked and sacked and sacked. In my opinion, his only saving grace is he's going to have to get rid of that ball quick to, McLaren or Dotson if he really even wants to have a chance. But like this roster is really good, man, and I really hope that Bieniemy can get this team going. But again, if they doesn't, they have a fallback with a quarterback that I don't hate, but he's obviously he is a true backup quarterback with Jacoby Brissett. But the only thing that I think that Jacoby Brissett has that I want to see Hal do would be move around in the pocket, because Brissett has always been a really good running quarterback right there when it needs to be done. So he just makes bad decisions at the end of games. So, it all comes down to Sam Howell. Like, he has to have a good season, because if he doesn't, it's done.
Now, I know as a coach, you have to be like, I love my quarterback, no matter who it is. But did you also see the Ron Rivera quotes this week where he was like,
I did.
In that Dallas game, if I would have known he would be that good, like, he would have been starting the whole season. His stats, again, against the Dallas starters, his stats were 11 for 19, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He got sacked 3 times, and he had a QBR of 48.3. So again, as the head coach, you have to, go all in for your quarterback no matter what. But also, you had a draft with some, notable quarterback prospects. You had an offseason with some notable free agent quarterbacks or quarterbacks that were on the trade block. And through all that, including, like you said, Jacoby Brissett, who is an accomplished quarterback in this league, and that he's won some games. He's been starters other places. Through all of that, you still are starting Sam Howell. And again, this league, you live or die by the arm of whoever your quarterback is. I don't know if I trust him, but like you said, their O-line is shit. And then they do, however, they have Terry McLaurin. They have a good roster. Like you said, I think they have the potential to have a top 10 defense in this league, especially with Chase Young on the line. And they have one of the most formidable defensive lines in the league. And their defense last year, their defense in, again, this tough division, they were an 8-8 team, but their defense, 7th overall in the league. They were 4th against the pass, 11th against the rush, 7th in scoring. And this year, however, they have the 9th hardest strength of schedule, which is going to be fucking brutal. And then they're over.
Don't talk to me about brutal.
Yeah. Their over-under casino is 6.5. So as an 8-win team, I think they I don't see anywhere they really dropped off, because again, quarterback last year, it wasn't like Heineke lit it up. I just liked him. And I saw him beat the Eagles on some just insane passes and plays. But do you think they've really lost enough, especially with the addition of as big a name and offensive coordinator as Bieniemy? Do you think they've fallen off enough where they're losing now 2 less, or basically 3 games less than what they did last year?
I don't. Reason being is, again, that conference is pretty damn weak. Yes, you just said, they have a top 10 strength of schedule, but I still think they're going to do okay. They're going to be flirting with being in the playoffs. I actually think that they'll scrape by and get into the playoffs. I do like Bieniemy. I think he's going to help this quarterback out. But again, it really comes down to how Hal can handle. And if he doesn't, you can throw Jacoby Brissett in. And if you watched anything from last year with the Jacoby Brissett over on the Browns, like he's a competent quarterback, and he just lost games right at the very end. So,
Yep.
you know, you're not going to be too bad. You got that O-line needs to figure something out because it's going to be awful, and it's going to be awful again this year. So I think they're going to be probably right around the same, and they'll probably squeak into the playoffs. I think they'll squeak into the playoffs right there. Maybe the second wild card, third wild card. That's where they're going to be. That, at least in my eyes.
Yeah. Now they do have, and again, the preseason, we don't put any stock in it, but their offense has been pretty electric during the preseason, and Hal's looked great.
When you go up against all the starter defensive linemen, how is that O-line going to handle?
That's true. Yeah. And they're scheduled to start. They start at Arizona. So I think that could be one of the games first week where like they win in just blowout fashion.
And everybody's like, oh man, the Commanders, look at them coming in. And it's like,
and it's going to be one of those things.
They played the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL this year.
So I do think week one, they blow out the Cardinals, and all the storylines are going to be how bad the Cardinals are and potentially not how good the Commanders could be. But then they have a 3-game stretch there where if you have a new quarterback, you're playing the Broncos, who despite last season, they still had a top 5 defense. You're playing the Eagles, who had a top 2 or a top 3 defense. And then you're playing the Bills, who had a top 2 defense. So literally after your first week, you go top 5 defense, top 2 defense, top 3 defense. So that's really going to be the stretch where it's like, even if the Broncos aren't good offensively, your offense is going to be tested against that Broncos defense. So it's their first, and then, but if they can survive that 3-game stretch, then it is you play the Bears, the Falcons, the Giants, the Eagles again, your Patriots, Seahawks, Giants, Cowboys, Dolphins, Rams, Jets, 49ers, Cowboys. So they don't have.
You could go 50% on that all day.
Yeah. But they don't really have, I mean, they have the first game of the season and then Bears, Falcons, Giants, and then it's just murderer's row. I mean, they have a legit, almost every team on their schedule are playoff teams either last year or projected playoff teams this year. So 9th hardest strength of schedule. When you look down at it, like, they look like they have 3 like just clear winnable games, and then every other game it's going to be a fight. So I think they're going to be interesting to watch. They did, I believe last year they did beat the Giants once, the Cowboys once, and the Eagles once. So in this division, if they can again go 50-50, and the Commanders are one of those teams where in this division, like it's one of those things where the Eagles haven't swept them in a decade or some crazy stat like that. So
when it comes to division games,
I'm scared when we play the Commanders.
When it comes to division games, you can never, count it out. So.
Yeah. And then before we move from the Commanders, and we'll use this as the segue to talk about the Giants, who do you think finishes bottom of this division? Commanders, Giants, or the other two?
I'm going to go Giants. I think they're going to fall down again this year. I'm not going to say they're as bad as I'm not going to say where I was going to say how I called them going to be the worst team in the league last year. Not going to do that. I think Daniel Jones is going to have still an okay season because I think he's a decent quarterback. He has nothing else besides him and Saquon Barkley. So, and what's going on with that. So we'll see. But I do have the Commanders beating the Giants this year in the division.
Oh, but I agree. I think, I mean, if you look at both rosters when it comes to the Commanders or the Giants, just hold them up to each other. I would much rather take the Commanders roster right now than I would the Giants roster. I think the only reason you're taking the Giants is because you love their head coach. You love Daboll. But if you're saying I can either have Ron Rivera as the defensive, head coach, and then Eric Bieniemy as the offensive genius / assistant head coach, or Daboll, I think I'm going to take the Commanders coaching staff, roster, and then honestly, the only question mark is Sam Howell, but he's an unknown. We know what the Giants quarterback, why the fuck am I blanking on his name now? You just said it. Daniel Jones. We know what he is right now. So what I think he is what the Giants were last season, right? A 9-7 1-win team that when they got into the playoffs, they got fucking annihilated by a Vikings team everybody thought was overrated. Or no, they were the ones who annihilated the Vikings, who we all thought were overrated. And then they got annihilated by the Eagles. So thoughts on the Giants going into this year, Casino? They have the 14th hardest strength of schedule. Again, I don't know how this works where the Commanders have the 9th hardest strength of schedule, and then the team that finished ahead of them has the 14th hardest. But
again, you're talking to the guy whose team didn't make the playoffs last year
and has the hardest.
Has the hardest.
I know. But last year, again, when we looked at the Vikings, it was as confusing as when we look at the Giants. Their offensive total last year, they were 16th in total offense, 26th again in passing, 4th in rushing, 18th in scoring. Defense, not much better. 18th overall in defense, 15 against the pass, 27th against the run, and 18th in terms of scoring. So how were these Giants so good last year?
I think Daniel Jones just really worked well under Daboll.
Yep.
I think that's a really good pair, and that's kind of where I'm having I do think Daniel Jones is going to be a good player this year. I think he might actually even improve from his good play last year under Daboll, but I have trouble seeing the rest of this team progressing as well as I think Daniel Jones is going to progress going into the second year under Daboll. They still don't have a lot of big weapons to go, down the field with receiving core. So I think they're going to struggle.
They literally just have Darren Waller, who they got from the Raiders. But again, he's so injury prone that it becomes one of those things where it's like, if you're relying on your two best weapons to be Saquon Barkley, a back who has missed time over the year, and then Darren Waller, who I don't think has ever had a full season, how can you put...
No, because then you have to rely on Hyatt Campbell and Darius last name Slayton. So I mean, it's funny, you know what? Because I wouldn't mind a couple of those receivers over on the Patriots, but whatever. Again, as you're saying, Waller's injury prone. If he can't play, nothing's really going to change offensively outside of Daniel Jones just going to have to try to. The playbook is not going to be fully open. It's going to be very condensed playbook, working on Jones running the ball, doing, quarterback sneaks, stuff like that. And he's just going to get run down. I'd run down. But I do think he's going to have at least a season like he did last year where he's going to play well. But I don't think it's going to be enough this year to kind of propel the team and, put his team on his back per se. So
yep.
I think they're going to digress, and I do think that the Commanders will go up. I mean, it's going to be a close battle. I'm not going to say the Commanders are going to kick the shit out of the Giants, and the Giants are going to go from, making the playoffs and making it all the way to, gosh darn it,
the playoffs.
Yeah, but and winning a couple games, and then all of a sudden not making the playoffs, and then being absolute garbage. I do think that they're going to miss the playoffs. I think the Giants will miss the playoffs and the Commanders will make the playoffs, but it's going to be really close. They'll be fighting for a spot, but I don't think they'll get it.
So the over/under for the Commanders we just said was 6.5. The Giants is 7.5. So again, they were a 9-win team.
I think you swap those.
I do too. I think the Giants fall back a little and maybe go 7 and now it would be 7-10. So they go 7-10. I think the Commanders, like you said, have a potential to last couple weeks of the season still be in that playoff mix. I don't know if I'm saying they'll make the playoffs, but if they did, I wouldn't be like shocked, especially when you look at their roster. I love their defense. I think their offense with Terry McLaurin can be scary, but again, with the Giants, apologies to Darren Waller. He did play 2 full seasons from in 2019, 20, and 2020. He played all games, but since then he only played 11, and then last year only played 9. So again, if he can be a 1,200 or an 1,100 yard tight end again, catch 7 touchdowns, that's exactly why they bought him in. But again, he is I think I just saw it. Oh no, he's been in this league for a hot minute and he's only had 2 full seasons when he started. So I don't know. And then when it's aging, I always feel sus about that, Casino. But we can now move on to the 2 teams that everyone is picking to. Let's just go to the Cowboys, Casino. I've seen a lot of people saying unironically that this is Dallas's year. Last year, Dallas finished 12-5. This year they have the 15th hardest strength of schedule. Their total offense last year was 3rd. They were 14th in passing, 8th in rushing, 5th in scoring. Their defense, however, 6th total defense, 8th against the pass, 22nd against the run, and they had the 5th scoring defense in the league. Thoughts on the Cowboys this year, Casino, going into this season?
So they're still going to be the Cowboys. They're going to be a good team. They're going to win games, in some games in blowout fashion, and other games will be grinders, or they're going to lose and they'll be like, okay, well, look what they did last week. It's going to be the same exact thing from last year. But my thing is I'm worried about the offense regressing and not being as good as they were last year. I mean, they lost their OC Kellen Moore. They lost their tight end Schultz. Zeke is now with the Patriots. I don't like McCarthy calling offensive plays. I think this is going to be bad for him, and I just don't trust Dak. I don't, and Jerry Jones doesn't trust Dak. Like that's a crazy thing. By the way, I'm glad we're talking about the Cowboys on this episode. But that whole Jerry Jones thing going, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody. I am just going to go and make this Trey Lance trade. Like, it's just absolutely mind-blowing that he did that. He
doesn't tell the head coach, does not tell Dak.
No,
Prescott.
doesn't tell anybody. And it's absolutely wild. But do you remember his comments last year when Cooper Rush was having a good one? He was like, hoping that we have a good quarterback battle, to try to make them play better. And it was like, oh, no, you're just over Dak. You don't want to pay him. You're done with him. You want to move off with him. So stop trying to say that you want a quarterback battle. You're done with him. So I mean, let me ask you this. Can you trust Cooks and Gilmore playing at a high level, or do you think that they're going to start falling down?
Well, that's the thing.
Same with, talking about those two. And then do you think that CeeDee Lamb and Diggs are going to have like an all-pro season? And if so, do you think they counter each other or not kind of, you know what I mean? Like offset and things will be kind of okay. Or do you think this is going to be dumpster fire? I think that they're still going to be a good team because they just got way too much fucking talent on this team.
Yeah,
they really do. But I don't see Dak. I don't trust Dak Prescott. I just don't trust him.
Now, this is me This is me removing my Cowboy hater hat to try to be objective when it comes to talking about the Cowboys. So when it comes to talking about the Cowboys, like you said, I think we've already seen the peak of what this iteration of the Cowboys can be. And this iteration being the Dak Prescott / McCarthy tandem, right? And I think
like it.
It is being severely, severely understated how much Zeke just meant to the mentality of this team and how you can look up stats. I've brought it up before on the podcast where it was when Zeke had great games compared to when Dak Prescott had great games, because when Zeke had great games, they won a ridiculous 80% of their games. And then when Dak Prescott, when the game was on the line with him, he won 40% of his games or something like that. It's kind of ballpark for both of those. So this team has always been the kind of bell cow back who just rushes the ball behind this great O-line for, 25 or 20 to 30 times in a game, 2 touchdowns. They just ram it down your throat. And then kind of Dak Prescott just has to come out and ball out. Like you said, they blow out the shit teams. And then against the good teams, they would give it to Zeke and they would just run all over and all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. So now you go into this season, you lost Zeke. Obviously, he'd fallen off the last couple of years, but he still really did feel like the heart and identity of this team. So then you come into this season, you have the Dak Prescott kind of Cooper Rush, I don't want to say quarterback battle, but it was one of those things where it's like, oh, with this team last year, look at how well Cooper Rush did, right? And then you still have the image in your brain of Dak Prescott losing against the 49ers again. And I've seen the thing where it's like, well, Dak Prescott only plays bad in the playoffs against the 49ers. And then it's like, so you're telling me in the playoffs, he plays bad against one of the good teams that's always in the playoffs? I don't know how you can try to spin that as a positive, because the 49ers are always in the playoffs. So to play bad against the team you're probably going to have to go through to get to the Super Bowl, yeah, that's a red flag. But when it does come to this team, the defense, I think, we obviously make fun of the Micah Parsons love and all that kind of stuff. But even outside of Micah Parsons, there's still a team that's 8th against the pass. Obviously, they're 22nd against the run, but that still makes them the 6th best defense. Micah Parsons does have a problem. I just think you and I both think he's a little bit overrated for what he is. But
he's a good player. He's a good player, but
yeah,
he's probably... I just can't stand how much the media talks about him.
So at his position, he is definitely top 5 in the league. But again, people talk about him like he's Lawrence Taylor and he's head and shoulders above everybody else at his position. He's not. Go look at the stats and impact. Hassan Reddick in their own division had a better season than Micah Parsons. But again, because he plays for the Cowboys, he gets that Tony Romo bump, which I call it, which is pretty good quarterback. But if he was on the Jacksonville Jaguars, he would not be getting anywhere near the publicity he does get. But again, do I wish Micah Parsons was on my team? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that I would never want Micah Parsons and blah, 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 blah. But I do think...
I would take him.
Yeah.
And I would say his name in every play.
I do think Diggs is also kind of a little bit in that category where, yes, he gets a bunch of interceptions, but again, there's also plenty of compilations online of him just getting absolutely torched, right? In games where he is kind of too aggressive to go for interceptions that, again, when he misses them, he gets torched, he gets burned. My wife is flashing me right now, everybody on the podcast. But
oh my gosh, there's a window behind you, a mirror.
But again, I do trust Trayvon Diggs against some of the top talent in this league. I'm just saying that we've seen him kind of, get torched. So I will say now only good things about the Cowboys, which is they're the team in this division that always scares me because ever since I've been a fan of the Eagles, the Cowboys, we beat up on them during the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb era, and then they've kind of owned us since, where especially Dak Prescott and Zeke just ran and passed all over this team. So I am scared of the Cowboys. I always wish they are much worse than they actually are, and then they end up being pretty
they
good.
got a lot, but see, they got a lot of talent. They have a
No,
really
they do.
good
This is
on
a
paper
stacked
roster.
roster.
Like yeah, it is. It's great, but it's the execution, and I don't trust McCarthy. I don't
Yes.
trust McCarthy with Dak. I don't trust Dak. And then I think the little bit that we had last year of the Jerry Jones Dak saga, it is just now so heightened going into this season that I think Dak is gonna crumble under the pressure of, oh, my owner, GM, my coach, because Jerry Jones is everything. His daddy, Jones is his daddy. His daddy doesn't believe in him. His daddy is giving him that paper bag, that lunch paper bag, and saying, "You're going to another team." And yeah, I really think that if they start this season, let's just say in the first 6 games, just I haven't looked at exactly who they're playing. Call it the first 6 games. However it happens, they go 3-3. Just say that happens. Holy crap. I'm gonna be watching that team with a magnifying glass. I will get on Twitter. I don't have one. I will create a Twitter just so I can watch Jerry Jones and see what he's doing. I will hire a private investigator to spy on Jerry Jones and see his whole scheme of what's gonna happen about Dak, because that's gonna be so fun to watch. And you know what? I'll take Dak. Send him to the Patriots. I don't care.
Now, I do think when it comes to the Cowboys, I think potentially their back end is going to be their weakest part. And again, last year you could run on this team, and I think their pass defense has gotten worse because they did sign Gilmore from your I guess he was on your Patriots for a while.
Yeah, he played with Stephon Gilmore, but like, does he have that's what I'm saying is like, can he still play at a high level? I mean, and also they have Brandon.
He's 32. Like, I mean,
right.
He's
32
and a lot of mileage on those legs.
Right. It's a lot of mileage on those legs. He is still a good player, but I don't think that the Cowboys are going to get what they want out of him. And then there'll be frustration. Also with Brandon Cooks, played for the Patriots, played for the Rams. I felt bad for him. I did feel bad for him because he lost to the Patriots. The Patriots, this was rough. So the Patriots lose to the Eagles, right? He was on that team. Then he goes to the Rams. The Patriots beat the Rams. And like I felt
yeah.
But and what's crazy is Brandon Cooks is not even 30 years old, dude.
I know. It feels like he's been in the league forever.
Right. I just don't know if he could play at a high level like that they're expecting him. I just don't know. If you have to have them play at a high level, because if you just get mediocre play from them, again, I just don't trust McCarthy with this offense to, fill in that soft spot with those guys. Cooks has got to make some plays. Cooks has got to make some plays because you can't just rely on, CeeDee Lamb and oh goodness, who's the other guy?
They have Brandon Cooks, and then they have Gallup. Yes.
Yeah. So, but Gallup's always injured, so I don't know what's going down.
And then they have a rookie tight end. They have a rookie slot.
Yeah,
corner.
Getting rid of Schultz, that was a big target for him. That was a huge thing, having Schultz for the team. And I touched on that, like having Schultz gone, having Kellen Moore gone, having Ezekiel Elliott gone. I just don't know. Those are key players. Like, those are players that are pivotal for your team. Yes, we did, like, you and I both like Pollard over Zeke, but you said it earlier. when Zeke's on, and he will win you games.
Yes. Now, the Cowboys schedule, I do think it is, I mean, they have a rough stretch right in the middle, but in the beginning, they play Sunday night against the Giants. I think we both think they win that game. Then they play Jets, Cardinals, your Patriots, Niners, Chargers, Rams, Eagles, and then like their schedule, it really doesn't come out as like a hard schedule, right? Because they get every hard game is almost sandwiched in between two easy ones, or should be quote unquote easy ones. However, last
And
little
that's what,
bit we'll talk about.
that is the thing right there, is they're gonna blow out those easy games, and then when they have a hard game, they're gonna be like, and then they get whooped. They're gonna be like, well, look what they did on those other two games. This was just a fluke game.
Yep.
And it's like, no. These are going to
Now,
be the teams that they're going to play in the playoffs if they make it, which they will, but still.
yeah, I think they also make the playoffs this year.
Oh,
However,
they're making the playoffs.
the interesting thing is when it comes to their win total projections, again, this was a 12-win team that now everybody is on the bandwagon as being better than they were last year for reasons I don't understand. But their over-under prediction this year is 9.5. So that strikes me as very interesting that this 12-win team that everybody thought was better is now projected to be a 9.5-win team.
See, I don't think it's that. Again, with what they lost in key roles, I don't think that it's. Yeah, I don't think that it's a big drop off. I know 3 games is 3 games, but I mean, in the NFL, you can go from being bad to good and good to bad really fast, because that's just how this league works. So dropping down to the 9.5 after being a 12-win team doesn't shock me at all, and I think that's right about on par with what I think they're going to be.
Yeah, so it is. My child is telling his life story over there, but let's move over to my team, Casino, which is the Eagles. Last year, everybody knows how they finished, 14-3, losing to the Chiefs. If you want to hear me bitch and rant about it, you can listen to our after Super Bowl episode. But 14-3 last season.
Just to touch on that real quick. How in the hell did you not react to that skit that I sent you on Snapchat? That was absolutely fantastic, because that is so you. Because the amount of times that you say you're going to go kill yourself if the Eagles lose,
yeah,
that was you. That was you in a nutshell. That was you in a nutshell. It was great. If I
didn't kill myself after last Super Bowl, then I'm living to be 100 years old. So
fair.
Yeah, but the Eagles did luck out with their strength of schedule this year. Everybody says it's a much harder schedule. They have they have the 13th easiest strength of schedule going into this season.
Yeah, for a team that made the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah,
fuck off. And the Patriots get the number 1. There's no rhyme and reason to that anymore. There's none.
I don't understand.
There's zero. There's zero. It doesn't make sense.
They finished last season 2nd overall in offense, 9th in pass, 5th in rush, 8th in scoring. Their defense, 8th total in the league, 1st against the pass, 17th against the run, 8th against scoring. Now, the question marks for this team are they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator. So they promoted Brian Johnson from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator and Sean Desai to defensive coordinator. Obviously, after losing both coaches, one who went on to be the head coach or the head coach of the Colts, one who went on to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Thoughts on the Eagles heading into this season, Casino? Do you think they bounce back, or do you think they have a Super Bowl hangover season?
I think they bounce back, man. Everything you hear about it, you even told me about this, that Jalen Hurts was like putting a lot on him. Well, it wasn't on him, and his teammates were saying, "Hey, don't, this was not on you. We lost as a team, and the rest of his team did let him down, and they're gonna go back and win this, and that's gonna fire him up. I think they're gonna be really good this year. I think they're gonna be just as good as last year. The people saying the Cowboys are gonna fucking win this division, I I I can't take them seriously, like just in life. Like I like Coke, right? Like I don't drink a lot of soda, but if I drink soda,
The
it's Coke.
drink.
Yes.
I thought you were admitting something on here.
Ugh,
I was going to be like,
that's a
whoa,
that's a
hell of a
story for
thing
another
to admit.
podcast. That's a story for another podcast. Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
So that's like anybody that says that Dallas is going to win this year, like if they come up to me and I love Coca-Cola and they go, Coca-Cola, that's the best soda out there. I'm going to start questioning if I actually like fucking Coca-Cola because there's no way that I can see Dallas. I just personally can't see Dallas beating the Eagles this year because I players, but I feel like they replaced those positions very well via the draft, and you hear good things coming out from those rookies, or they replaced them with actual veterans and people that are seasoned in the NFL. I think they're going to have the best O-line the entire season. I don't think a single team is going to outdo them week to week in O-line performance, which is just going to open up Jalen Hurts' game. I think Hurts is going to come out and play just as just as good as he did last year. The defense is still going to be really good. I can't see how anybody can say that Dallas is going to win this league or win this division over the Eagles. I'm not saying Dallas is bad. I just said it. Dallas is good. I expect them to make the playoffs. They're going to have a little bit of a downfall just because they lost some key players, but they're still going to make the playoffs and they're going to be a good team. You can't overlook them. It'd be very easy for like Dallas to say beat the Eagles or beat say the Niners or whoever in the playoffs if they end up having just a bad game, and Dallas is good enough to take advantage of that. But if they're playing both at their top performances, there's no way in my mind that Dallas can beat the Eagles when it comes. I know it's division and all that, but I just can't see that being the case. So it's just wild to me that people still think that that's going to be a thing.
Yeah. So now here comes pessimistic. I couldn't think of a P name. Pessimistic Paul.
Penis Paul.
Pessimistic penis Paul.
Say that 5 times fast.
I am obviously always terrified.
Pessimistic penis Paul. Pessimistic penis Paul. Pessimistic penis Paul. Pessimistic penis Paul.
I am obviously always terrified as an Eagles fan going into every Eagles season. I told you last year my Eagles, that Eagles team was probably my favorite Eagles team of my lifetime. The Super Bowl was obviously devastating, and I have not gotten over it. But I also do think that just looking at this roster top to bottom, I think they are as talented of a roster as anybody in the league. I trust, obviously, because I'm an Eagles fan, I follow this team much more closely than I do any of the other teams. So I've been following all their joint practices. Obviously, the preseason games don't really matter because they literally have not played Jalen Hurts in one preseason snap. I don't think they've played any of their starters pretty much for any of the games. But when you hear about what's coming out of joint practice, it's like reporters for other teams as well as Eagles reporters are just, the thing you always read is Jalen Hurts in these joint practices, which obviously they try to simulate a real game as much as possible. He's making throws and the accuracy of his passes is blowing people's mind, right? And then obviously he is, I think, one of the best leaders in the league in terms of the team seems to really
by far that team looks up to him like there's no other. I haven't seen a team look up to a quarterback like that. And again, going back to the Brady thing, but like Brady's prime years, not
especially
not,
for him
like
to only be 25.
Dude,
It's so
he is
crazy.
an absolute leader. It's also like, I mean, a lot of people love I did it again. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. I have to say the word Cincinnati, and as soon as I say Cincinnati, I'm like, oh yeah, Joe Burrow. So but like Joe Burrow is the same way, like that. He's a leader, and I think that's why they're so successful. Patrick Mahomes as well. Those quarterbacks are so successful because everybody, the veterans, the people that were in the league when they weren't even born yet, sometimes it seems like, are like, oh yeah, no, like that's the guy that I want to follow into battle. Like that's the guy. Jalen Hurts is that guy. Like
Yeah.
I can't. And I'll tell you who's not. Dak Prescott.
This is so funny because people who listen to this podcast who don't know you are going to be like, Casino's an Eagles fan. You have hated the Eagles ever since I've known you with such passion that it is so funny that Jalen Hurts has flipped you into being like,
I fucking love Jalen Hurts.
Fan.
I think he's an amazing.
Insane.
He's amazing.
It's insane.
He's one of my favorite players in the NFL right now. He's top 5 favorite players in the NFL for me.
Did I fucking miss something? Or like you always see these lists and all these things where it's just like when I see other analysts talking about like this upcoming season, there is like 0 question marks for Dak Prescott. And I always see people being like, I mean, can Jalen Hurts, can he have another good season? It's like the doubt when it comes to Hurts, and then almost just the...
I wish Dallas wasn't a franchise anymore.
Let me just run you through these stats real quick. In 2020, the first season he started, he threw 52% completion percentage. Obviously, he threw 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He was not the starter. 2021, his first year as a starter, he jumped up to 61% completion percentage and threw 10 more touchdowns. Last year, he bumped up to almost 66, or no, over 66% completion percentage, 3,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Again, in all those passes, he then averaged 8 yards a pass per attempt last year. Then you look at his rushing yards. This guy rushed for 13 touchdowns last year, almost 800 yards. Like
that's starting running back numbers.
Yeah. Dude, if your starting running back got 13 touchdowns, you'd be like, this is amazing. He didn't reach over 1,000 yards, but you know, you were 200 yards away from being 1,000-yard rusher with 13 touchdowns, and you're a quarterback? Yeah. And plus, again,
and you can throw the fucking football.
Well, like everybody says the Eagles weren't a good passing offense last year. They were 9th in the league in pass yards. So, like, the fuck are we talking? Like, I don't get this thing where it's just like, he's just a runner. He's not a passer. It's like they were top 10 in the league in passing yards last year.
But yet they say that Lamar Jackson is a passing quarterback. It's like,
yeah, I don't.
No. I think Lamar Jackson's a fine passing quarterback. I don't think he's a great passing quarterback. I think he's a fine passing quarterback, but he's a runner. He's a runner. You know, it is what it is. That's why he keeps getting hurt.
And when I watch Eagles games, it always feels like Jalen Hurts is not a running quarterback. He just runs when either the pocket breaks down or it's like a designed run. A lot of those touchdowns were from the quarterback sneak, which again, Sean Payton this year, remember, Casino, he's a fucking liar and a douchebag if he does not run the quarterback sneak on every play. Because remember, he said if the Eagles quarterback sneak was not outlawed, he would run it every single play. So if they run one play next year that is not the quarterback sneak, we can all get together and call Sean Payton a douchebag, which he's always been, and a liar, which he will now be because that's what he promised. So the second the Broncos next year run a play that isn't quarterback sneak, he was full of shit the whole time. So let's not forget that. But also, When it comes to the Eagles schedule, and obviously I've looked this up and down a million times, I've said there is upset alert week 1 against your Patriots.
You would mean
Again,
nothing because the Patriots aren't making the playoffs.
but then they go on a run where I'm like, legitimately, I think they can win all of these games until it gets to November, where they go into Kansas City, then they play Buffalo, then they play the 49ers, then they play Cowboys and Seahawks. Like, that run right there is going to be fucking brutal. But if they come out of that winning half those games, I do really think this could be a team that they won 14 last year. I still think this is an 11-12 win team. I really do. I don't think, like you addressed earlier, I think all the people they lost, they brought back, because I mean, the biggest one to me they lost was Hargrave in the middle at defensive tackle. Oh, who'd they replace that with? Just Jordan Davis, everybody's projected best player in the draft that somehow slipped to us because of behavioral issues. The Eagles organization is not like the Bengals or other teams that always just have like players who have sketchy, off the field antics. Like the Eagles have always been, since Laurie took over, have been a pretty damn well-run franchise with like everybody who leaves there does interviews or they're like, I wish I never left the Eagles. So it's a well-run organization. Yeah, our fans are obnoxious. I've never met football fans who aren't obnoxious. Fan is short for fanatic. Like, I've never understood this, but
I was never, a douchebag Patriot fan towards you at all. No, I wasn't.
But yeah, so they have.
Hey, Casino, I know that Hey, Casino, I know your team just lost, and they're out of the playoffs. But do you want to come to the Eagles bar and watch the game with me? No, I hate you. My team lost. I fucking hate the Eagles. Me. Why are you calling me and rubbing it in, you jackass? Me. I never made that phone call. So.
And also, don't forget when you invited me to the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl party you were throwing, but the rule was that I could not cheer for the Eagles.
It wasn't my party. It was my brother's party.
That's true.
I was just there.
I will say, your brother a bigger douchebag Patriots fan than you are.
Yes.
So that, yeah.
Yes.
So I'll give you that.
He is a diehard. I love him, but like, who man does he gets into the Patriots are his favorite team all in all. Like so I've discussed on here, like he's high up in the nightlife here in like the food and beverage industry, and one of his workers for him is actually close friends with Matthew Judon for the Patriots, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to his house for Thanksgiving. Anything that you guys want, anything you want, have him sign. My brother went and was like, or not for Thanksgiving, for 4th of July. And he was like, yeah. So my brother went to the store and bought like little Patriot helmets and like sent them with his coworker, but the guy that works under him. And yeah, so I've got my Matthew Judon signed helmet, and that will be on my bookshelf. Currently, I have a Patriots fluffy football and a Patriots dog I named Pat, and they're hanging out on my bookshelf right now.
That was a nice story.
It is a nice story. Yeah, like that's he's a fanatic. Like it's crazy. Like he's a shrine in front of the TV during football games.
So Casino for this team, 11.5 over or under. Would you pick I think I would pick over 2.
It's
I really
over
feel
all
like
day.
This is
It's over all day.
Team.
This team is so good.
I think when it comes to that stretch, I think they're going to be so motivated to play the Chiefs that I think they beat the Chiefs. They lose to the Bills. I hope they annihilate the 49ers, and then it becomes they're probably going to – I think their losses are – Bills, Cowboys, Commanders, and then one of the random teams like, maybe the Seahawks or it could even be the Chiefs, Dolphins, Jets. One of those teams, I think they lose. So I do think this is a 12-win team. I am concerned with the Super Bowl hangover of what happened last time, which is after they won the Super Bowl against your Patriots, the next couple years were just real injury plagued. And I don't know.
Well, and they didn't know who their quarterback was. Their quarterback play was awful. Like, dude, this is not that. This is not that situation, man. Yeah, they're going to come out and be absolutely legit. They're going to be a good team.
I know. But I'm just, again, as an Eagles fan, I'm always scared. I do think, however, even though how pessimistic
if they don't make the
NFC
Championship game, at bare minimum, like I have them etched into the NFC Championship game.
I mean, we'll see. Fingers crossed. I hope they do. I just
fingers crossed for you and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I will say
besides those two things, fuck the Eagles. And fuck Eagle Nation.
Yeah, my stone cold lock of the year, barring injuries for any of these players. Obviously, we don't wish injuries. Even on the Cowboys, which is a team I hate, I don't want anybody on that team to ever be injured or hurt. I just don't. I don't like seeing that. I don't wish that on anybody, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to the Eagles, despite barring injuries or freak accidents or anything like that, my stone cold lock is that Jalen Hurts will 100% be a better player than he was last year. And if he didn't miss 2 games last year, he would have been the MVP. So he's going to be a better passing and running quarterback than he was last year in his MVP season. So yeah. I just think anything else to add?
No, when it comes I was literally about to say, like, I'm watching my kid. She's been very good. She woke up from her nap about like a half hour ago, but she's not been asking like to escape the room or anything like that. I have the door locked because she gets into things now because she can open every door. So
nice.
But yeah, no, she was for the last half hour, she goes to her toy cabinet, grabs a toy, goes back on her bed, sits on it, talks and plays with it, puts it back. It's great. She puts it back, and then she actually grabs another toy and does it. She's been great. But now she's now coming to the door and is wanting out. So I've got to go.
Well, I will let you escape this room that I have. I will use the remote lock to unlock the room I have you trapped in when we record this podcast. So you may leave now, Casino. We will be back on Friday to talk about, let me pull up the schedule we had. We are talking about the NFC West because I wanted the AFC West to be the last team we talked about because obviously they have the Super Bowl champions in it. So this Friday, we're talking NFC West. Next Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those days, we're talking AFC West. And then football season's here, Casino. Our next podcast will be either, do you want to do it the morning before the NFL season starts or the Friday after the first game? I feel like we should do it Friday after the first game so we can talk about the first game, right?
Yeah. I was just going to say, if we're going to do one like after Sunday and you want to do one like Monday is going to be the only option for me. We won't have the Monday night game in that podcast. But like I said, Tuesday, my kid's here.
Yeah, no, we can definitely.
Tuesday, he will be ripped out of my wife at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, but so for this week and next week, we should be fine. And then the podcast schedule is obviously going to get messy because Casino over there is welcoming his second child into the world. But yeah, so as of right now, next episode this week, NFC West. Then the week after that, AFC West, we're going to talk about obviously the opening night game, which I still cannot believe is Lions Chiefs. But we'll talk about that one.
Let's go Lions all day.
We'll do our final picks for the season, who we predict to win the Super Bowl, MVP, all that kind of stuff. So this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino. We'll see you at the end of the week. Adios.